Hello chess friends and welcome to Jozarov's chess channel and welcome to the Magnus Carlsen Chess Tour finals in 2020. We're now again in the decisive day. It's day 7 and it didn't start good for Hikaru Nakamura. He lost the first game with the white pieces, only got a draw with the black pieces against Magnus. Now it was again Hikaru Nakamura who was playing with the white pieces in the game 3 and he had to make something happen. If this game ends in a draw, then I think Magnus will find sort of a line in which he is comfortable and he make it the draw and he will win this super final. So what to do when you're in such a situation like this? Of course, you see the top grandmasters, they're playing this openings, they're playing this sidelines of openings. So you have to really have a sort of a B plan or a backup plan. And I think that Hikaru Nakamura missed a couple of moves in the previous opening line of the Berlin defense. Now, in the game 3, he'll show really an improved version, and it's really a great one. Here, Hikaru Nakamura really goes all in like in the poker game. He has to make something happen, as I said. If this game ends in a draw, this will be, I think, for Hikaru Nakamura. So let's check out now the third game. It was really an attacking brilliancy by Hikaru. So round 3 and fight. E4 played by Hikaru. E5, knight to F3, knight to C6, bishop to B5, knight to F6 played by Magnus. We have again the Berlin defense. And again D3. This was also played in the first game. Bishop to C5, and we have bishop takes C6, and after D takes C6, knight to D2. So okay. Here Magnus castles. Again, we have H3. Again, creating these blocking ideas. We are not allowing some pinning ideas by white. Bishop to G4 would be a positional threat. In the game, knight to D7. And we have now knight to C4. A5. Here played by Magnus. And now G4. This was really this all-in move now by Hikaru Nakamura. He has to make something happen. He goes straight forward attack here. Against Magnus Castle King, because there is one problem also about this knight to d7 idea. Although this g4 is a little bit questionable by the engine, but this is human chess, of course. G4 is really an annoying move because after the move knight to d7, you see you don't have any more some defenders in front of the king. There are, of course, some attacking possibilities. In the game here, rook to e8 was played, and in the previous games and 2 games Hikaru Nakamura lost with the move bishop to e3, and I've mentioned that move as a bad move also in my analyzed games, because as I said, you don't have to challenge the bishop immediately. Here in the game, rook to g1 played by Hikaru. He's trying now h4, g5, h5, maybe g6, really splitting the pawns in front of the king and create really enormous pressure. So what to do when you're getting attacked on the flanks? The problem of Magnus Carlsen's setup here is that he doesn't have so many pawns in the center. So one of the best ways to counterattack the flank attack is a central counterattack. So center counterattacks are, of course, not possible because Magnus doesn't have any more the d pawn. He cannot crack the position with the potential d5 move. So he has to attack the other side of the board. He has to create a flank attack on the queen side. So he continues to push with the move a4, and we have now knight to e3. I really like more this idea, this setup by Hikaru. Of course, he wants to play the knight on this very active square on f5, and weakening the pawn structure with g6 is not an option here for Magnus Carlsen. I think then we can simply play, as I said, h4, h4, h5, g5. Really, you don't want to really weaken the pawn structure where your opponent is attacking you. So here Magnus decides to play bishop takes e3. And this is now suddenly, I believe, a better position than this previous ones that Hikaru lost. You should also really check if you want to have a good preparation against this Berlin wall that Magnus Carlsen is building. So this is, I think, a good position now for white with a healthy pawn structure, with the pieces or natural squares, with attacking possibilities. The king is not endangered, although the king is now in the center a little bit, but the king is so far not endangered. As I said, black cannot create counterattacks in the center, so the center cannot be opened, and that's why I really like this setup of Hikaru Nakamura. I think this was his backup plan, his B plan here, in order to make something happen if the game is not going well for Hikaru. So knight to f8. Here played by Hikaru, we have h4. He simply continues to push. He's not scared anymore. He has to make something happen. Here, queen to d6, and now queen to d2. We have c5. Magnus is, as I said, is trying to counterattack with b5 here and splitting the pawns, also splitting the pawn chain here with the potential c4 move. So h5, we have b5. You see this opposite side attack game. White is continuing here, black is continuing there. Really so far a dynamic game. So knight to h4 with ideas to cement the knight on f5. If bishop to f5 happens, then of course we want to take with the g pawn and open the g file. So here in the game, queen to c6 played by Magnus. He's finally trying his c4 pawn breakthrough. In the game, knight to f5. Bishop to f5, again I'm pointing out, don't do that because this is really now a dangerous game here for black. Bishop to h6 will happen, and I'm not seeing a good way how black should defend here. So after the move, knight to f5, c4 was played. It was now Magnus Carlsen's first inaccuracy, I believe, because there is a better line, a simplification line with knight to e6. What to do here? If white continues to push with g5, then we can simply release the pressure with the move knight to d4. It forces now several trades of pieces. After bishop to d4, c takes d4. We have undoubled our pawns. That's the most important thing, because our strategical disadvantage was the double pawn structure on the c file. Now at least we're having this very nice advanced pawn, and we have also an attack against the knight on f5. Now after the move g6, here I think we could take then the knight, and after e takes f5, you see, I think it's defendable. Still with counterattack possibility, we see some moves like e4. So Magnus missed maybe a good defensive strategy here with knight to e6. He played a very risky c4. And the problem is now that the queen will sneak in on the very active square b4. And knight to e7 is always, really always a serious threat here, the fork on the king and the queen. So you would be forced to give up your rook for the exchange. So here in the game a3, Magnus is continuing to expand on the queen side. Here b3, of course you don't want to take, then you invite maybe your opponent's rook into the game. Here in the game b3, passing through, and now c takes d3 by Magnus. We have c takes d3. Queen to c2. This is a very, very risky move again by Magnus. Here h6 played by Hikaru. He wants, of course, to split the pawns. We have g6, and now comes really the critical moment of the game. So rook to c1 played by Hikaru. If you play something like queen to a2, then you get really this fork idea, knight to e2, but it's really a dangerous check. You have only one square if you don't want to give up the rook, so king to h8 is a possibility, but now it's really an immortal attack. Bishop to g5. The threat is, of course, bishop to f6, immediate checkmate. So now knight to d7 is a defensive possibility, and the problem is now the queen is not on the c file here anymore because you have taken the pawn. Now pause the video and try to find the winning move in this particular variation. It wasn't played in the game, so let's test your might here and try to find the winning move here for white. So it's a great tactic. Okay, I hope you can spot it. It's really a great queen sacrifice. Queen to c5 is really cool. Again, you can maybe give up your rook, then we'll simply take. But if you take the queen on c5, then you get bishop to f6. It's really cool checkmate. So I don't know what to do. Maybe f6 here is a possibility, but then queen to d5 with queen to f7 will happen again. Really some dangerous threats here. So that's why after the move rook to c1, Magnus tried queen to d3. And here Hikaru missed, again, maybe a good tactic. He played rook to d1, and after queen to c2, he played the move knight to g7. Here a better move is again the similar idea. Knight to e7, after something like king to h8, again bishop to g5. Now black would be forced to play rook to a6. And now I think we can go rook to c1, queen to a2, and now queen to b5 is again, I think, winning here for white, because there is this double threat. We can play queen to e5. There is also the attack on the rook. So here Hikaru missed that, and he played after the move queen to c2. He played knight to g7. Still a good move. Nothing is lost here for Hikaru. He has a better position. The activity of white's pieces is simply much better. And here bishop to b7 played by Magnus, and this was now Magnus Carlsen's mistake, because a better idea is to play bishop to d7. The idea behind bishop to d7 is that you at least protect your b5 pawn, because you cannot protect the rook anymore. That's the tactic, of course, that Hikaru saw. Rook to e7 is not a possibility. Rook to e6. Rook to d8 is also not a possibility, as the rook is covering this very important file. So But bishop to d7 is much more powerful, and you see now in the continuation why is that so, because Magnus played bishop to b7, and here Hikaru simply grabs the rook to e8, and now f3. Fixes the pawn structure because the e4 pawn was also hanging. We have rook to a2, and now rook to d2. Here Hikaru missed the immediate winning move. You can again pause the video, it's really one move and it's game over here for black. He missed that move. Here in this particular moment, I think Magnus had like 15 seconds on the clock. Hikaru had about 1 minute on the clock. So, okay, this was a 10th blitz game now, but bullet game also. But after the move queen to a2, the winning move is of course queen to b5 with the double attack here on the rook and the bishop. If the rook covers, then again have this queen to e5 idea, and it would be very, very risky here for Magnus. Knight to e6, bishop to d4 wins the game immediately. So Hikaru missed that move. Okay, another problem. Still, he has a good position. After queen to a2, he played rook to d2, queen to b1, and now king to f2. a2 played by Magnus, and now queen to c3. Again, the same idea to sneak in somehow with the queen on dark squares. Queen to c7, queen to e5. Here in the game, Magnus plays a huge blunder. Rook to a8, and again, pause the video and try to win. This is endgame. It's game over after 2 moves. Magnus Carlsen resigned. Okay, I hope you can spot the move, because it was rook takes b1, of course, after promotion of queen. Now queen to e5. In this position, Magnus resigned, because whatever you do, queen to a1 doesn't bring you so much. We'll simply play again this queen and bishop battery, so it's game over. Intense chess game, really. This g4 idea, I really like by Hikaru. This was really a great improvement of this attack against the Berlin defense. I'm really glad that Hikaru win this. Again, we'll have more and more battles. I hope this gets to the Armageddon game, and then we'll see who is better, because this has been really a great final so far. So the chess fans, I think, deserve the Armageddon game. So, okay, I hope that you enjoyed this game. Meanwhile, you can watch my other commented chess games from this tournament. Here is the link. And if you want to see more brutal games, check out my best chess games of all time and the best chess games played by chess computers. And if you like this content, you can also subscribe to my channel. See you soon with some more videos, and chess is the best, of course.